Right, ladies and gentlemen, MrSotko here. Welcome back to the channel. Got a whole bunch of good crypto news stuff for you today, and the first thing that I want to talk about is pretty big news that China says that the Libra dollar peg would harm its sovereignty. So they're going to go ahead and make a digital token of their own. So as various media outlets, including South China Morning Post, reported July 8th, China's central bank said it was already in the process of building the digital token. The impetus, sources say, came directly from Facebook unveiling the infrastructure for a cryptocurrency of its own, Libra, which will operate outside the banking system. So if Libra is widely used for payments, cross-border payments in particular, would it be able to function as money and accordingly have a large influence on monetary policy, financial stability in the international monetary system. So SCMP quoted Wang Xin, director of the People's Bank of China, as querying the PBOC has revealed it had gained permission from Beijing to begin the process of designing the token. Concerns stem from Libra's threat to Chinese cross-border payments and even financial sovereignty due to Facebook's potentially pegging it to the US dollar. And while Libra has not yet issued or even created any tokens, governments and banks the world over are monitoring it, including the PBOC, which is paying high attention. If the digital currency is closely associated to the US dollar, it could create a scenario under which sovereign currencies would coexist with US dollar-centric digital currencies. But there would be, in essence, one boss, that is the US dollar in the United States. If so, it would bring a series of economic, financial, and even international political consequences. While Yang did not mention decentralized cryptos, commentators subsequently argued Libra would draw attention to Bitcoin, which would add to PBOC's nightmare. Agree, this will ultimately drive Bitcoin to accelerated adoption, Morgan Creek Digital co-founder Anthony Pompliano wrote on Twitter following the news. As Bitcoin has reported, Chinese concerns over Libra may end up unwarranted if regulators elsewhere succeed in throttling further development, as currently regulators are saying, whoa, 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 stop. The U.S. government put a moratorium, two different things, I suppose, on Libra coin. And the European Central Bank was also like, hey, why don't you stop that for a little bit? So if you give one thing to Libra coin, Facebook coin, Zuck Bucks, they are certainly disrupting the world system. They are making a lot of people scared, more scared than Bitcoin, and I really don't blame them. Not that I'm on their side. It's just that more people are going to use Libra coin, I think, from the start, from day one, that I think Bitcoin ever will get. And not to say that Bitcoin is bad. It's always going to be around. It's always going to be a great store of value. And I'm not even talking up Libra coin here. But, you know, after all, Facebook has something like 2 billion users on it. So the amount of people that are going to use Libra coin on a daily basis will probably be way more than what Bitcoin will be. So countries scrambling to make their own digital currencies, scrambling to stop Libra coin. Very interesting. So Binance hack, $8 million in Bitcoin moves as price hits 12,000. So 8 million in stolen Bitcoin from Binance is on the moon, as reported by TNW, is on the move. I think I said it on the moon. It's kind of on the moon. On July 8th, more than 8 million in stolen Bitcoin from crypto exchange Binance was moved. Twitter-based crypto transaction bot Whale Alert picked up on the transactions, with one totaling 701 BTC, while the other one was 1 BTC. Because maybe they had to pay somebody. They're like, hey, let's give our mom 1 BTC and send it. I don't know. The funds were transferred from one hacker's wallet to a pair of separate addresses, and interestingly, the move coincided with Tether's recent USDT printing frenzy and Bitcoin's strong upside move to 12,750. Maybe they thought, hey, while everybody's checking out the prices, we can move some of these coins. And no, that's probably not the case, because there's a lot of bots and a lot of people watching all hacked coins as they move around. But so far, it's not particularly effective. Initially, when the attack occurred in May, Binance CEO CZ openly discussed the possibility of the crypto exchange rolling back Bitcoin's blockchain to nullify the attack, but Zhao quickly binned the idea after the crypto community objected to launching a 51% attack against the network, which is just, it probably shouldn't have ever even been suggested. So these are moving around. We can see the movement here. Pretty complicated, to be totally honest. You'd have to stare at that for a little while. But it's not surprising that they'd be moving now and starting to sell off. I don't think it's too big of a deal. I mean, 11,000 or 706 Bitcoin is not so big. I think what is more concerning is, again, the Craig Wright versus Dave Kleiman, or the Kleiman estate. If somebody gets a hold, I think either way, however that works, if somebody gets a hold of that Bitcoin, they're going to sell it. I mean, what else would you do with 1.1 million Bitcoin other than to hold it for a little bit longer or sell it? And I think it's going to have a somewhat detrimental price impact on Bitcoin, regardless of how it ends. I think unless the option C, it ends with nobody getting any Bitcoin at all, and it never really existed. So again, there's very little evidence to go any which way in that, but I digress on that one. Moving on, Tether loaned USDT to investors and illegally traded in New York, says investigators. So over the past year, crypto platforms Bitfinex and Tether have allegedly issued tethers as loans to investors run on unregistered securities offering and conducted business in New York, despite being banned from operating from this in the state. In case you guys are not from the U.S., the state of New York is particularly has particularly high regulation, especially when it comes to crypto, any kind of trading, investing, even in firearms. New York is a very high regulated state. It's almost like California in a way, but it's far more strict when it comes to crypto and investment. And sometimes it's hard to sign up to certain crypto exchanges or be a part of certain things in the crypto world if you reside, and it requires KYC in the state of New York. So this all comes from a remarkable memorandum of law filed yesterday at the New York Attorney General's office, which has been investigating Bitfinex and its sister company Tether since April of last year. The filing, which includes 28 exhibits, comes in response to Bitfinex's efforts to dismiss the case and resist the agency's orders. It was submitted to the New York Supreme Court. The allegations would seem to confirm what many have long suspected, that Tether have been issued unbacked as loans to certain investors, despite prior claims to the so-called stablecoin as backed one-to-one by dollars in the offshore bank account, though the executives say now it's 74% backed. Well, it was 100, I don't know, it's 74. What's the difference, right? 74%, I don't know, it's really actually like 73.89%, but we did round that too. So reality, it's like 73.2%, but nobody's like really paying attention to this. I mean, we fired our investigator. We fired him years ago when everybody was like, hey, let's audit our auditor. For some reason, I just got lost on that. Pardon the mind fart. That we fired our auditor. And again, I like to make the analogy that because Tether fired their auditor a while back when everybody wanted them to be audited, and then they just didn't hire another one. They just didn't do it, right? So it's just like that doesn't help at all, right? That's kind of like a high school or some kind of building that's really dirty, right? And they're like, hey, this place is really dirty. What are your janitors doing at night? They're like, wow, they're really doing nothing. We should fire them. And like, yeah, you should. And then they fire them, and then they just don't hire a new janitor. So it just gets worse over time. It's just really amazing how this is all working out. The NYAG's response, which spells out in great detail the exchange's business dealings with New York investors and banking services, also throws doubt on Bitfinex's argument that the agency has no jurisdiction over the exchange because it's not based in the United States. Well, I mean, New York, they have jurisdiction over the state of New York. So, that's kind of silly. But not that I'm like back in the New York, Attorney General's office like I care, but they do in the state of New York. I'm just saying, like legally, yes, they actually do. So Tether giving out some loans of Tether with basically nothing back in it. They're just like, yeah, here's some Tether. There's nothing back in it. We just printed up 100,000 Tether, but here you go. Make sure you pay us back as fast as possible. Otherwise, we'll only be 74% backed. All right. Moving on to additional news. And what crypto news would it be without John McAfee? So John McAfee offers to build Cuba's first cryptocurrency. John McAfee, one of the weirdest individuals. If you haven't watched a documentary on John McAfee, you probably should, because he's done so many drugs that I think he's kind of crazy. I think he did way too many. The cybersecurity expert and tech entrepreneur John McAfee recently declared his willingness to work with Cuba's government as a crypto advisor, because that's probably the government. That's probably a good idea. McAfee declared his intention soon after Cuba's government officials revealed their intention to develop a crypto to be used to avoid economic sanctions imposed by the United States. Again, probably a really good idea. You know what I mean? Just avoid sanctions and stuff like that. Not that I'm, again, I have to say this so many times today. It's like these articles make me feel like I'm backing certain things. But, not that sanctions are good, but, yeah, McAfee, just go to Cuba and help them avoid those sanctions. I'm sure the United States will appreciate that. According to Reuters, McAfee assured that the cryptocurrency project is not only viable, but rather simple. So simple, in fact, that he even offered his guidance pro bono. Oh, pro bono, of course he did, John McAfee, not $100,000 per tweet on your Twitter. It would be trivial to get around the U.S. government's embargo through the use of a clever system of currency, so I made a formal offer to help them for free on a private channel through Twitter. Through Twitter, because it's pretty private. The use of cryptocurrency to get around U.S. sanctions is an idea that seems to be directly inspired by Venezuela's efforts to create its own digital currency for trade, which is not working at all. However, McAfee blames past failures on false expectations. You can't just create a coin and expect it to fly. According to the tech guru, the key to Cuba's successful development of a cryptocurrency is to adapt it to its reality as a country. You know, that's kind of ironic what McAfee says. You can't just create a coin and expect it to fly. And isn't John McAfee creating a freedom coin that has absolutely no value that he says on his website? That's right. No, I did make a video about that apparently the freedom coin is supposed to have no value whatsoever. It's not supposed to be tied to Bitcoin. It's not supposed to be tied to any stable coins or fiat money. So to define its value, and everybody is just supposed to use this coin. But the thing is, as soon as somebody puts it on an exchange and people start trading it, it will be tied to a value. So I don't understand. Because everything has a value if you just have enough of it. I mean, grass seeds have a value. Like, you could literally go to Lowe's and buy some grass seeds. So I'm just saying, like, it's got to have a value. But you can't just create a coin and expect it to fly, he said. Oh, the irony. So McAfee's interest in helping the Cuban government develop a crypto is based on the programmer's own ideas of freedom and his time spent in Havana. McAfee also plans to run as a Libertarian Party presidential candidate for the 2020 U.S. elections, which he knows he's not going to win. And he knows he can't even step into the United States because he'll be arrested for tax evasion. So I don't know how that's going to work. From the island, and will extend his tourist visa indefinitely. All right. So, I mean, John McAfee news, it just gets better, like, every time you read it. There's never a dull John McAfee article. Okay, so moving on here, Litecoin creator Charlie Lee warns wannabe traders, says Litecoin halving already priced in. Now, I agree and I disagree with this. I think halvenings are mostly hype before the halvening. So he is right in the fact that it's already essentially priced into Litecoin. Just because Litecoin halvens does not mean the price is just going to inherently immediately increase. These are based on hype. From the 2012, 2016 halvening, etc. And, with the price increasing over time. Now, the Litecoin halving initially from 50 to 25 really didn't have that great of an effect. I don't think Litecoin had a particularly good effect until about 2016 or 2017, which was, I think, long after the Litecoin halvening anyway, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, it wasn't as strong as Bitcoin. I don't think the hype is as strong as Bitcoin either. So Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin, thinks prospective crypto investors should prep themselves for risk. In an interview on Crypto Love, Lee discusses the warnings he gave to investors in late 2017 when Litecoin's value was skyrocketing. Crypto is really risky. I've seen many bear markets or crashes that are 90% down. So at that time, when it was $200, I said it could drop to $20, and don't be surprised if it does. And what happens when the price does crash? It shakes off all the weak hands. Everyone who bought in at $200 or higher will sell at $20, and they're losing 90% in their portfolio. No, don't do that. Don't sell at $20. Like, sell way, way before that, or just hodl on. Don't do that. I don't know why anybody would do that. So my point was that if you can't withstand a 90% drop, then don't buy in because it's too risky for you. Said Litecoin did almost drop to $20 by December 2018, though it is now trading at $123. He also discusses the likely impact of the upcoming Litecoin halvening, which is less than a month away. He says the halvening is always kind of a shock to the system. When the mining rewards get cut in half, some miners will not be profitable and they will shut off their machine. if a big percentage does that, then blocks will slow down for some time. For Litecoin, it's 3.5 days before the next change, so possibly like 7 days of slower blocks, and then after that, the difficulty will readjust and everything will be fine. In terms of the price, the halving should be priced in because everyone knows about it since the beginning. But the thing is, people kind of expect the price to go up. Hype. So a lot of people are buying in because they expect the price to go up. And that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So because they're buying in, the price does actually go up, which is true. So I do want to warn, some people that, the Litecoin halving is coming. I do think it will have a good effect. I think by December of the end of this year, I think our prices will be higher than they are now. It's hard to say with crypto. I mean, everybody thought at the end of 2017 that it was just going to keep going. Everybody thought in mid 2018 that it was going to turn around anytime soon. So it's very hard to say. Most predictions are just entirely wrong. But $200, $300 Litecoin is not particularly out of the question, especially since Bitcoin right now is at 12,500. It was at 12,800 or so for a little while there. And that was based off of, honestly, a couple whale purchases in basically one day, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, one day here, 11,000 to 11,008 to 12,002 or 300, and then up to 6. So it was about 6,000 or 12,700 for a brief moment there. And now we're kind of going back down. So it's hard to say where we're going to go after this. But right now, alts are definitely undervalued. I mean, XRP at 39 cents when it used to be $3 and almost 50 cents at its high. It should be much higher than it is now. Ethereum should probably be much higher than it is now. Bitcoin is over halfway to its all-time high, and Ethereum is not over halfway to its all-time high. Same with Litecoin. I would argue that is definitely not halfway to its over halfway to its all-time high. Maybe somewhat close. Even Bitcoin Cash and just about every coin you see is nowhere close to where it was. So Bitcoin dominance is really high at 64%. And eventually we'll see that switching. Eventually we'll start to see people starting to put money into these lower cap coins like Litecoin, Ethereum, anything up here, which will get them bigger gains. Because at the moment, 12,500 to 12,000 to 20,000 is much less gains than Ethereum going to its all-time high, or even Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin, or just about any of these coins going to their all-time high, which is 2 or 3 or 4 times as much. Bitcoin Cash is nearly 10 times, I think more like 8 or 9 to its all-time high. So eventually I think Bitcoin will slow down, or if it does keep going, I think these alts will catch up sooner or later. But again, with the hype of Litecoin, the Litecoin halving is never as hypey as Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is going to be May 2020, so in just about a year from now, and that will make for a lot of hype. There will be a lot of positive articles. There will be news article after news article. There will be YouTubers talking about it. I will be talking about it. I talk about it almost every day now, and it's almost a year, like 10 months away. So as it gets closer, just imagine the onslaught of positivity that's going to be moving into the market and causing a psychological buy-in for a lot of people. Hype, happening, and people showing charts of the previous halvenings. It's going to be a madhouse for many months up until that halvening. But that's all I have for you guys today. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, subscribe. My social media in the description below. But hope you guys enjoyed it. And as usual, I will see you guys next time.